So, hi everyone. Hi, we're here with the amazing Pip Drysdale, who is the author of The Next Girl, which was just recently published. So, congratulations for that. Um,
Thank you.
and we're just in the middle of a read along on a tandem read along for The Next Girl, which we're getting really amazing feedback and people just feeling the suspense. So thank you for that. So Pip is a best-selling author, musician, and actor who grew up all over the place in Africa, Canada, and Australia, and then grew up in New York, where the book is set. And then her debut novel, The Sunday Girl, was a bestseller and has been published in many countries, including the US, Australia, Italy, Poland, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia. And Pip also has a whole bunch of other bestsellers and amazing writing to her name. So that's Pip. Did I miss any? Is that all?
No, that's all. That's enough.
Okay, perfect. Amazing.
Good.
So talk us through The Next Girl. So kind of where your inspiration came from for the book.
Oh my God, that is literally the hardest question. Everybody asks me this question, and I'm like, I never actually know where the inspiration for any of my books come from. I feel like usually it's almost like life comes at me from lots of different angles, and I just kind of synthesize it into something that feels like a really fun and interesting story idea. And then you kind of go with it, and it grows into something, you know. I can tell you where certain aspects of the book came from because they came from specific things, but I don't know. I feel like the ideas for books and the way that they kind of grow into something is part of the magic because I don't entirely understand it.
That's amazing. I completely agree. I think and we hear such different answers to that question. Some authors
Yeah.
are like, oh, there was an incident that happened that I witnessed, which inspired me. But I feel like, there's so much that goes into a story. It's not just one plot line. You get different scenes, different characters, and you kind of weave in your instincts and everything into it. So I
Yeah.
love that answer. Okay, so to make it a bit more easy for you, here's
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you my favorite thing about the book, and then you can tell me how
Okay.
you put that together.
Okay. Yeah.
The thing I
Perfect.
love about it is that it's a story that's got so many layers. It's not like a straightforward sort of suspense thriller, although the suspense is insane, like it really is. Um, and but I love that you kind of it's about so much more than what it is because you've got
Yeah.
you meet the protagonist and she you kind at first you think that she's got an addiction, but then you realize that actually it's so much more than that. And then it's
Yeah.
so gray, it's not black and white. She is
Yeah.
taking justice into her own hands, but then is she filling a space that just the justice system doesn't. A
Yeah.
lot of people empathize with her and they think, what, she's doing the right thing, but then when she kind of gets implicated into a murder, you think, could she be somehow involved? And then you think,
Yeah.
we know what happened, so we know. I mean, I don't want to spoil things, so this is where I'm going to
I know
stop.
it's so hard. The problem is that with this book, the more you talk about it, the more like
Yes,
plot spoilery it's
yes.
really tough
So there
to
we go.
talk
So
about
this
it.
is my question. So like all these layers of kind of slowly discovering her motivations
Mm.
and what she's like and going along with her on this journey. Did you kind of
Yes.
structure all of this up front, or did you
No.
kind of feel your way through it?
I definitely did not structure it all up front. Like that's part of the magic for me, like how it comes together. But what I do at the beginning is I have a skeleton idea of the plot. I know where it begins. I know the major things that happen throughout, and I know how it ends. And that usually is around the main, what I consider at the beginning to be the main story.
Okay.
Okay. All the side stories, I kind of start weaving in and molding as I'm going. And then as I learn things about them, I might go back and then alter something in one of the main plot points. And it kind of grows like that. But the one way that I do work, which I've learned recently, actually lots of like no other writers seem to work, which I just assumed everyone did it the same way. Like, I I tend to start, and it will take me ages to get to 10,000 words because I'll be going over and over and over it, like sweeping over and adding extra nuance and trying to figure out exactly who the main character is and really feel my way into her and find parts of me that are her. Like a lot of my characters I've bled into them. Like there are pieces of me in there. And so it's finding me in her, right? And then once I've got that and I've got the opening sequence, I'll go a little bit further with the plot like the main plot that I've thought of. But then I will sweep through from the beginning and go to the end of that and maybe go a little bit further, sweep through from the beginning, go a little bit further. So I'm consistently like going over and over it. So I'm getting ideas as I go about where plot points could go in or clues could go in and figuring it out as I go along, because by the time I've finished writing a book, it truly feels to me like it really happened. It feels like a memory, it doesn't feel like something I made up where I have to remember where things are, because like I know where everything is in her apartment and I can visualize it all. I mean, it probably helps that I lived in her apartment. So but so that's how it comes together. But what I definitely do not do is sit down and write a lengthy plot where everything is in place and I know exactly how it's going to go before I begin. I have tried to do that before and I'm always wrong. I mean, like I try to write a plan, but I've yet to stick to plan because something better always comes along. I'm writing it and I realize something. And the thing I realize while I'm working is just so much better than what I could have thought of ahead of time, right? Because I don't even know how it happens, but I do go in with a plan. Like I think if I just went in directionless, that would be a problem as well for me. So it's kind of a little bit of each.
I understand. And I think in a way that's what makes it so because I'm very critical when it comes to thrillers because I hate when the plot twists feel contrived.
Yeah.
I really hate when you can feel that the author sat down and was like, right, I've got to shock them now. So how do I do that? Whereas from the way you're describing the process, because you're in that apartment, you're in that setting, you're in that life, really, you kind of you bleed into it, like you said. It feels so much more believable because, like, for example, I'm going to try and make this very spoiler free. There is about one of the characters, right? So one of the characters is like a reveal about their true connection to the situation. You know who I mean, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So that kind of twist, I've kind of come across it before where it feels really contrived because it's someone who you think is someone throughout, and then suddenly that's not who it is. And and they're involved, whereas you thought they weren't. Whereas here, what I really liked was that you get the stress of her figuring it out. You feel it. You feel the stress, and you're kind of like, oh my God, like there really is no one she can trust. And then that. Okay, I hope that was spoiler free, but
it's hard.
I know it's very hard. And so I loved that bit. And so for that specific plot twist, again, was that something that came to you as you were going, or was that something you knew from the beginning?
Well, I knew that about that character.
Okay.
But I didn't know exactly how the reveal was going to go. I tried doing it a different way to begin with, but it just felt wrong to me. So then I altered it to be the way for it to come about the way that it happened, because it just didn't. The one thing I've learned through writing a few books now is that if it feels wrong to you, it probably is wrong.
Okay.
If it feels like it's just not fun or rolling properly, it probably needs to change. Like the thing that's happening doesn't need to change, but the way that you are doing it probably has to change. So with that, I mean, I can tell you this off camera afterwards, but the first time I wrote it, like I wrote it one way, like where the reveal happens one way, but the second time I altered it, and then that created other links to other things. Just by virtue of the way that the reveal came up. But you see, I always find that by the time I get to that point of the writing process, so the point where I'm essentially doing what I can't, like, because I think I changed that in my first rewrite before I handed it in, like before submitting it. By that stage, I've got to the end of the novel. So I know everybody and I know where everything is. And I find it much easier to come up with clever solutions to things at
Mm-hmm.
that point. So I've already gone through so many things in my head, like, and discarded them as potential things, and then I throw them away. And so you've already kind of gone through them all. And if you need something else, you're like, well, let's just refer to sort of like 74A. Like, just pull that back.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think that's why it feels so believable. It feels like I feel like the best plot reveals is once you don't expect and you're shocked, but in retrospect, they
Yeah.
make sense. And I think
Yeah.
that's what you've done here. And that's why I think it is, yeah. So thank you for
Oh,
that
good.
answer. And then, so here's my next question. This is kind
Yeah.
of veering a bit more into the kind of, your personal connection maybe to the Billy's motivations, shall we say. So like,
Yeah.
considering the way you portray her, like her versus the men in the story, the men who go unpunished, um
Yeah.
is this something that you felt, okay, I feel, is this something you sort of a while ago and then you thought, okay, now is the time to tell this story? Or is this a story that you kind of felt, inspired by current events and, everything that's going on in the world now?
It's not really current events so much. Although the thing is that I hate to say it, but it's always that. I mean, like, that's always the current event, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
it's always a current event where a woman is being like racked over the coals, like for
yeah,
something she didn't do because some guy's been awful, right? I
yeah,
mean, that's not like new news. And
yeah,
unfortunately, it'll probably be news tomorrow and the year
yeah.
after that and the year after that, unless something dramatic changes. And I hope it does. I'd love to be wrong about that. Then I'll start writing different books. But like, I think that unfortunately is as real today as it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. And it's just that I do think that these days it's more covert, like that, like the things that happen almost in a cleverer way, because, and so I wanted Billy to be extra clever. I wanted her to be able to truly take on people who did things like that.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, definitely it's been going on for ages and ages, but I feel like it's been kind of
Yeah.
something that's been more talked about. That
Yeah.
I feel like more women have felt like, what, like, because encouraged by the fact that other women are speaking up, and it's, which is
Yeah.
amazing and beautiful. And I think that that's so important. And I think, and with films like A Promising Young Woman,
Oh,
and
I love that movie so
I love
much.
that film. And I
So
kept thinking
right.
about it when I was reading the book, just because
Yeah,
it's
loved
another
it.
story about a kind of, a strong woman who's been hurt and who's wrestling with her own demons, but at the same time she's got this strength to see justice
Yeah.
done. Um,
Well, it's like I really wanted something where, like, a woman had another woman's back behind her back.
yeah,
Like, so it wasn't like, doing it so that everyone knew what she was doing. She
yeah,
has, like, for example, Jane Delaney's back just for the sake of having Jane Delaney's back.
yes,
And, like, I don't know, I mean, I'm a bit of a utopian over here. I'd love a world like that, right? Where we all had each other's back behind
yeah.
each other's back,
Yeah.
so maybe that inspired it a little bit, like kind
Okay.
of wanting Billy to exist, or
And I
wanting to be like Billy,
And I like that
like,
it's like the contrast between her doing it behind everyone's back, and then like the
yeah,
public version of the men involved, and the way they
yeah,
kind of make themselves the victims and everything. So I think that was
yeah,
great, and that really comes
right,
across loud and
yeah,
clear. So that was awesome.
yeah,
Um, so those were my main questions, and then I just wondered, do you feel like having like a large cast of characters, because they're all believable and they all feel
yeah,
real. Do you kind of, when you first weave the story and then you go over layer and layer and layer, do the characters just pop into you kind of, into your head, and you're like, oh, it'd be good to feed this person in at this point? Or do you kind of have a more or less an idea of who's going to star in the book from the start?
I start with like the main characters, and then the supporting cast kind of emerges. So I'm always like, I try to keep as few characters as possible in my books, but it's just that they can't, sometimes you just can't. To make a real world, you need like a lot of people. And the one thing I really wanted for Billy was I wanted her to exist like, you know, because she's doing something naughty, like, but I wanted her to exist in this very real normal way, like, so that like, you know, she appears to be just a regular girl, you know,
Mm,
going about her life. And so that includes her knowing the guy at the bodega, and it includes her, like, you know, having a cat she loves, and it includes her like having a friend at work and a boss who's a total bad
mhm,
word, and like, you know, um and like a guy she likes, and like a guy who hurt her, and all the things that make a real person in a real life. I didn't want to, I was very keen on making it so that she wasn't this really isolated individual. She had this really kind of broad social like these relationships, you
mhm,
know, and but there was just this other layer to her that you wouldn't guess.
mm. Okay.
I hope I haven't given anything away. God, it's hard.
No, I know it is hard. No, I think you're fine. I think with the cat and the boss, that's stuff that we
Yeah.
kind of know, so
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
right. Um, but yeah, I mean, I know it's really hard. So let's do this. Let's kind of, quit while we're ahead. Let's talk about other
Yes.
things just for now, so we don't
Okay.
give anyone any spoilers.
Mess it up. Yeah.
Um, so are there any kind of TV shows that you love that you would like to recommend to anyone taking TV shows or films that kind of, maybe for fans of the book you would say, watch this, it inspired me or it connected in any way?
Well, I mean, like when I was explaining to my publisher what I thought the book was, I said Promising Young Woman and meets High Fidelity. And I was thinking like the new version of High Fidelity. Like, you know, I was thinking about the one with Zoe Kravitz in it, right?
Mhm.
Um, the one that was made, I think it was on Hulu here. I don't know what it is over there.
Mm.
Like in 2020. And I would say maybe it's also been likened to, for fans of The Perfect Girlfriend. I don't know if you guys know that book, or The Flight Attendant, that TV show.
Oh yes, yeah,
Like
with Daily Coco.
a couple of people say for fans of The Flight Attendant. So I mean, it might be because she wakes up in bed with a strange guy and she doesn't
Yes.
know like who the hell he is, and she has to figure shit out. Like maybe that's where the like, but I've had two people like draw that reference, so there must be something there. um but I am watching White Lotus like everyone else in the world right now, so very keen to see what happens there.
Okay.
And let me think, what else am I watching at the moment? I'm rewatching True Blood, but I don't know why. I'm just like addicted to True Blood.
I get that. I get that. I've definitely done a few rewatches of that for sure. And I haven't seen the new season of White Lotus. I'm kind of saving that for the holidays. But
I won't ruin anything. It's really good.
okay, no, I mean the first season was amazing. So definitely,
Yeah.
and because I was thinking as well for me. Have you seen I May Destroy You?
Oh, I love that.
I
I
love that.
absolutely love that. Do you know what I loved about that? I just had like, and I'm sure they did this on purpose, but like I kept watching it and seeing scenes from that like old school movie True Romance. Like I don't know if you ever saw that. It had
No, I
like
haven't seen that.
yeah, if you watch it and then you have a look at I May Destroy You. Oh no, that's a different TV show. I'm so sorry. I'm
No,
thinking
that's
of a
all right.
totally different. I'm
Which one?
thinking The End of the Fucking World. I'm thinking of that one, but I May
Oh,
Destroy
I
You is like
loved that
another
as
great one.
well. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
that one
I
was
May Destroy You was
amazing.
phenomenal. Yeah, so
Yeah.
both of those are great.
That
Those are
was
just
really
easy.
good. I loved that. But I haven't seen True Romance, so I loved the end of the fucking world. So I'll definitely check out True Romance. Okay.
And then you can see like all the like the scenes that they've kind of like even the costume stuff is in there. And
Okay.
like there's one in the phone box which was kind of like pulled directly from it. And I'm sure that, I mean, they would have done it on purpose. Like it would have been
Okay.
like paying
I'll
to
check
do it. They
that
wouldn't have.
out.
Yeah, it's really
I'll
cool.
check
But I
that
Made a
out.
Story was amazing. I remember that one. It
It was
was
amazing. And so that's the reason I bring it up is, again, you've got, kind of a story about a woman that's been wronged and
yeah.
and figuring out, navigating her way through that. And that was another one that kind of made me think of the next girl in a way. So I
Yeah.
just
And also the ending of that, you know, where you see, oh God, I don't want to ruin that for everyone, anyone watching, but like the very end of that TV show where, you know, she's thinking about all the different ways she can deal with it, right?
yes,
I found it, I found that very realistic, you
I
know, and I
know.
found the choice she made very realistic, you know,
Yes,
like,
exactly. That
You just need your
definitely
ears to
had
be
my heart
open.
rate kind of like
Yeah.
definitely. I just think it resonates. These things resonate so much. So again, like, you know, I think weaving those storylines into, you know, something that's supposed to be entertainment and a thriller just gives it that extra depth that, you know, just makes it so much more real.
Oh,
Um,
totally. And I try to do that with all my books. Like, I think you have to have something to say. Like,
yeah,
you want it to be fun and you want people to love reading it and for them to be on her side and to like be 100% engaged and everything. I don't want to write anything that feels like work ever. But you also have to say, you have, you want people to, you want to connect with your readers and you
Mm.
want them to kind of like hear what you're saying and agree with you and be like, yeah, I feel like that too, you know, like
Yeah, exactly.
I
Well,
would appreciate
mission
it.
accomplished with this one for sure. Um, and okay, so now that we've done that, my last question is, or is there any chance you could tell us a tiny bit about anything you're working on next, if you're working on something
I
new?
can't really, but I can tell you that I am working on something
Okay,
and I'm about 30,000 words in.
okay,
I'd say I'm in love with the first like 10 to 15,000. The second 15 are a little hazy, but
okay,
you know, that's normal. So,
okay.
um, we will get there. At the moment, I'm on a book tour though for for the next girl. So, I won't get back to writing it until probably next week. But that one is coming along really well, actually. So far, everyone who's read it has been like, I just love it. And I feel like that's such a good thing when you're writing a new book. Like, you know, you need the word love thrown
Yeah,
around.
100%.
You
Wow,
need
so
love
you
and lots of exclamation marks.
That's true. I guess you do need that, especially at the beginning. So like if you're 30,000 words in, but like you've had already feedback from people, that's really amazing. That means that like like you said, weaving the elements works, weaving all
Yeah.
layers works because people, you know, just usually
Yeah,
like
and it gets
a draft
better
can
and
be
better the more you do it. Like I really think you just have to you keep going and you just keep layering and layering and weaving and getting a feel for everyone. And the other thing I've learned is just not to try to rush it because in some parts of the process, some parts of the process are very slow for me. And I don't know why. It's frustrating. Like I'll write 500 words and then I'll just be dead. And then the next day I'll do 500 words and I'll be dead. Sometimes once it gets to the end of the book and I'm doing a rewrite, I'll be able to do sort of like 14-hour stints, like all the time, because I kind of already have the major
yeah,
stuff down. I'm just altering it. It's the conjuring from nothingness
of
and
course.
putting that on the page that I find the hardest. So
Of course, it's the creative juices and getting
yeah,
those, squeezing those out, and then it's always easier to work with something that's already there and polish and
existing.
finesse
Exactly.
rather than
Yeah.
face the blank page, for sure.
Oh my God, totally. And the
Yeah.
key, I think, is to do it every day. So you never like have enough time to get anxious about the blank page.
Yeah, it's like
Like,
getting back on the horse when you fall off. It's just
yeah.
get back on
I was
right
like
away.
every
Otherwise,
day.
yeah, I understand. Well, Pip, thank you so much. I'm gonna pause the recording now. This is being
Okay,
recorded, guys, just so you know. So I'm gonna pause it now, and thank you so much for joining us.
no
You
problem.
know, and for chatting to us about the next girl.